Okay, there we go. Okay. Got a couple people joining in now, so let's get things started. My name is Brenden Schaeffer. Going to do a little talking tonight about the Cardinals after a disappointing game, a disappointing series. I guess they lose the series to the Milwaukee Brewers because it would have been a 4-game series, but for now it's only 3. Last night's a rainout, and so they dropped 2 of 3 to the Brewers, and more than that, though, some potentially serious injuries going on in the Cardinals outfield that we have to talk about. And so, welcome in. Go ahead and retweet this, share this. It takes a second. Just get this out to your followers, and then we can get things started here and talk about any questions that you might have after tonight's loss. And I see a question already asking anything about Dexter. Obviously, I'm not at the ballpark, so I won't have that information. I'm sure if Matheny has not talked already, it'll be on Fox Sports Midwest. And so if any of you guys have that on in the background, want to do some talking here, you can feel free to comment into this thread because you'll be the first to do so. I won't have that information if it comes out. But what I'm assuming is the case with Stephen Piscotty is that he's out. He's probably going to be on the disabled list. With the 10-day DL now, I would imagine that the Cardinals aren't going to take any chances. Ideally, it's not a situation that keeps him out long term, but if you watch that play and you saw the way Stephen Piscotty came up kind of limping there, favoring that right hamstring, it's probably not very good. It's probably a torn hamstring. We heard hamstring strain. We don't really know anything about the severity of that when they mentioned it on the broadcast, but maybe Matheny or somebody with the team tonight can give some more information, but most likely we're going to see him land on the DL. As for Fowler, that's probably a little bit more up in the air. Based on what I saw, he remained in the game for the 3rd inning and then left, did not make it in for the 4th. That's when you saw Diaz come in. So just the idea that he was able to remain in the game, it could be encouraging, but again, the shoulder thing is kind of going to be something maybe we don't know about until tomorrow. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. And if a cat shows up at any point, that's because my cat's trying to make her way into the room right now. But if you're watching, I appreciate it. Brenden Schaeffer doing some periscoping. Retweet this, share this to your followers if you would be so kind as to do so, and then we can get things started with questions. I know a couple of you have commented on myself getting a haircut. Yeah, that did happen. The hair on the side was getting way too long, and so I just decided to get rid of it and leave the hair on the top. That's sometimes I do weird things with my hair. You guys know me well enough by now to know that that is not too far out of my character. So, if you would go ahead, start asking some questions, and we'll get things rolling here. And if you could retweet this, I'd appreciate it. Okay, somebody commented on the last 3 outs after Carpenter's walk. I believe the word that the commenter used was disgusting. And yeah, it was pretty gross what the Cardinals did there in the 9th inning. I think I sent 2 tweets about it because I was so incensed. But the idea that Neftali Feliz, who they flashed it on the broadcast before the inning began, the Brewers are tied for the most or have the most blown saves in Major League Baseball this season with 6. Neftali Feliz is their usual closer. And how does he start off the inning but by giving a 4-pitch walk to Matt Carpenter? So you feel like, okay, the Cardinals they're in business. You've got the middle of the lineup coming up. Let's do some damage and win this game. Jed Jerko missed his pitch. It was a hanging breaking ball, and off the bat, it looked like he might have gotten into one, but easy fly ball to the left fielder. But then the next 2 batters, on the first pitch, they get it out. Yadier Molina pops it up, and Diaz grounds out. You've got to have better plate discipline, in my opinion, when you've got a guy who starts the inning off with 4 balls to walk Matt Carpenter, and then you don't make him throw any extra pitches. Yeah, I don't think that was a very good collective approach by Cardinals batters in that 9th inning, and they end up losing the game 5-4. Again, appreciate you joining me. If you'd retweet this and share this out, that would be fantastic. And go ahead and ask some questions, and I'll get right to them. Okay, assuming Piscotty goes to the DL and Pham comes up, Jose Martinez will start in right. Yeah, I mean, probably. That's probably his position. I would say I mean, it really depends. Pham is probably better suited for left. They could start Pham in center. That's probably what I would do, is leave Randall Grichuk in left. Because really the story, and again, I'm assuming that Piscotty's on the DL and that we're going to need a little bit more time to learn about Dexter Fowler. But if some more information comes out while I'm on here, I would really appreciate you guys letting me know, and then we can talk about it. The haircut was like $8.99. I know, it wasn't very expensive, and that's why it looks like this. So give me a break if you could. Can we end Star Wars injury night? No, this was not Star Wars night. I'm going to be the one voice that will rally against that concept because this was not Star Wars night. Star Wars night takes place later in the season, usually in July or August, and there's like some sort of giveaway. This is just May the 4th be with you. That's like a separate thing entirely. And so if you're counting this as the Star Wars curse, I think you're wrong, but I guess you're entitled to your right to do so. But, again, the question was about Jose Martinez. Would he play right or left? I really don't know if it matters, but assuming Dexter Fowler is injured, along with Piscotty, I would say that, yeah, he probably would play right, and then you would leave Grichuk in left, and you could move Pham to center. Although Pham hasn't been playing center much in Memphis because Harrison Bader is down in Memphis, and I'm pretty sure he's been the center fielder. Somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I think maybe moving Grichuk around less would probably be better for him defensively and potentially offensively. And thank you for Mark chiming in. July 26th. That's Star Wars night. If somebody gets hurt on that night, you can blame the Star Wars curse. But tonight I'm not buying it. I'm going to have to reject that one. Why doesn't Matheny have enough faith in Martinez to let him play every day? I don't think it's that. Look, I know that Martinez has had a great start to the season. Everybody can see that. He's batting still, I think, 330 or so even after tonight. He's still above 300. But when you look at the state of the Cardinals roster, break it down and you'll see why he's not getting very much playing time. Before tonight, you had Grichuk in left, you had Fowler in center, and you had Piscotty in right. That's your starting outfield. I think it's important for Randall Grichuk to continue to get time. You might be thinking that would be a position he could play, shift Jose Martinez in there for Grichuk when he's been struggling, but I think it's worthwhile to keep Grichuk in there and ride him through those struggles. And as a first baseman, Jose Martinez is not going to play over Matt Carpenter, and so those are his spots. And first baseman isn't really even a stretch for him because that's not really his native position. So I can't blame Matheny for not being able to get Jose Martinez in there before tonight because they're just, where are you going to put him? Now you've got plenty of places to put him because your right fielder's out and probably your center fielder is out as well. Matheny starts Pham over Martinez. You may not have that problem. Like I said, you might end up having both of your center and your right fielder out, in which case Pham will start, Martinez will start, and then I don't know what the heck you do about another outfielder if Bader comes up or if they're going to decide that Johnny Peralta can play left field. Anything's possible right now. I honestly have no idea. The next question was about Wainwright. I think they said, at what point do we give up on Wainwright? We being the Cardinals, I imagine, coming from the Cardinal fan perspective. I don't know if you can. The money he's getting the money. He's got that equity built up. I think the reality of the situation is he's going to be your fifth best starter, and he's going to have to grind like hell every fifth day to try to get you as close to a quality start as he can. And a lot of times he's going to come up short. I believe it was 5 innings and 4 runs tonight, 10 hits. That seems to be a common thread for Wainwright, is giving up so many hits in a game. He gets hit hard. He gives up a home run damn near every start. The probability is that this is just Adam Wainwright for you right now, and this is who you're going to get. Unless he has some sort of renaissance and comes up with like some kind of funky pitch that can regenerate some value in his game that is currently not right there. That's what you've got with Wainwright. But also the reality is that he's going to pitch. Every fifth day he's going to be your starting pitcher because of the money invested in him, the equity that he's built up over his career as a St. Louis Cardinal. And kind of a lesser mentioned reason for that is I don't know that you've got a surefire replacement for Adam Wainwright. Okay, Tyler Lyons might have been that guy 2 weeks ago. He came back and has already since gone back to the disabled list. So he's not as a part of that picture. People I saw on Twitter a little bit tonight, Matt Bowman, talking about could he be a starter. I don't think that makes any sense really, and he's struggled a little bit as of late, gave up another home run tonight. So go ahead and comment right now. You don't like Wainwright as a starting pitcher. Who you got? Throw me some names of the people that you think could replace Wainwright, because I'm going to have to reject Alcantara. I'm going to have to reject Luke Weaver's possible. He has not gotten enough of an opportunity to build back up at Memphis for me to be on board with that, and that's 3 in a row that said Weaver. So, okay, I'll give you that. He had a good first outing, 6 innings, shutout innings in Memphis. But remember, he's coming off of an injury, and you don't want to rush him back necessarily. And how many innings is he going to be able to give you over the course of a full season, being a 22, 23-year-old kid, whatever he is? I'm not so sure that he's going to be rushed right up. Again, they're going to give Wainwright time. Gant could be a guy. He's been hurt, though, on and off, I believe. Mike Myers could be a guy, but you didn't really like what you saw from him last year. So I'm not convinced that any of those guys are going to be able to give you anything better on a consistent 5 day in, 5 day out basis, better than what Wainwright can give you, which is probably 5 or 6 innings, 3 or 4 runs. He's been pretty consistent in that. Just falling short of a quality start most times, but the ERA is disastrous. It doesn't look good, and it's not good. But if he can go out and give you 5 or 6 innings of 3 or 4 runs, even though that's an ERA of like 6.5, it gives you a chance to win the game as your number 5 starter. And I think that's the way you have to look at it right now. And maybe the Cardinals pursue something at the trade deadline. I don't think that's going to be the case as far as starting pitcher is concerned. But look, those guys in Springfield, very exciting. Flaherty, absolutely. Alcantara hasn't really succeeded down there at this point, but I think he's going to be kind of like when you saw Alex Reyes last year in Memphis not really do so well, and then he comes up to the big leagues and he kills it. I think that could be, not saying that he is the pitcher that Reyes is, we don't really know that yet, but I think that Alcantara could be kind of that type that could succeed, especially when you get him a first glimpse at Major League hitting, and the hitters don't know him very well. I think he could be fine and could be a good pitcher, but I don't think there's any reason to rush those guys at this point. The Wainwright situation's not good, but I don't think it's to that point where it's just not salvageable and you can't have him throw another start. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't think we will get to that point. Because I think the Cardinals are just going to be willing to keep running him out there for a while, unless it's just brutal 6, 7, 8 runs in 3 or 4 starts in a row. Like I don't know. Other media guys have said I think that it'll go this many starts, and if he hasn't improved, then they're gonna pull the plug. I just don't see it. The next question I saw was about Josh Donaldson. Again, quick interjection. If you guys would share this on Twitter, I'd appreciate it. And follow me as well if you don't already at bschaeffer12. Going to be doing these kind of things all season long. And you can follow me on Facebook. I've got like 150 Facebook likes, and I'd love to be able to integrate that more a little bit. So if you could, search Brenden Schaeffer on Facebook, facebook.com/bschaeffer12, and like me there. I'm still posting content there as well if you guys are into this Cardinals stuff. The question about Josh Donaldson, I've gone over a little bit. Yeah, if they continue to struggle, I think he could be an option. But again, Jed Jerko has done a really good job. He's actually, this morning I saw, and Chris Gardner pointed this out, producer for the Midday Grind on 590 The Fan, the Bovada odds for NL MVP had Jed Jerko tied with Anthony Rizzo this morning. 6 home runs, 10 runs batted in, and he was hitting like 342 or something like that coming into the game. So that's your guy that's playing third base right now, and Jed Jerko is doing a pretty good job. So I don't know that lessens the need necessarily for a third baseman, but it absolutely gives the Cardinals some more time to figure out if that's the area to deploy all these assets in. You could, if you think you need some more thump in the lineup, you could look elsewhere. Especially, look, this Piscotty thing. You remember a couple of years ago, Matt Adams had I don't think it was a quad, not a hamstring, but Matt Holliday had the quad. When you deal with these muscle pulls in the leg, in the hamstring region, who knows how long these things can last. I'd imagine Piscotty goes on the DL. And again, if there's been an update on that, please let me know. But if that's the case, that could be 2 or 3 weeks, but more likely it could be a month, 2 months, 3 months. It could be a lengthy injury for Piscotty where they need some help potentially in the outfield. And that could be the case with Dexter Fowler. I would imagine his injury is less severe, but just based on the fact that he remained in the game for a little while longer, it didn't have to be pulled immediately after that dive in the 3rd inning. But again, if third base is fine because Jerko's holding it down, maybe they can deploy some assets in some other areas to help the lineup in the outfield or in another way. We just don't know right now where the needs are going to be. Right now, second base looks pretty strong because Colton Wong has done a fantastic job over the last few days. But, is that going to last? And is he going to be able to stay healthy and keep putting these kind of games together on a consistent basis? We don't know. Right now, he looks like the guy that should be probably batting leadoff for the Cardinals tomorrow if Dexter Fowler's out. So it's kind of hard to say where you're going to have need if you're the Cardinals come July. Matheny's overused Seagrass these past few years. Nothing left on the fastball. Yeah, he's lost velocity on the fastball. Absolutely. I don't know that he was really the biggest concern of things tonight. That was really a Wainwright, and then you had to use Bowman for a couple of innings, and so he cost you a little bit there by giving up the home run. But yeah, Seagrass, sometimes guys lose their velocity, and Seagrass might have to figure out how to be a different pitcher. but he's one of the more reliable guys in the bullpen at this point, I would say. Look, I think it's kind of a bad look that, and the next guy mentions Aledmys Diaz playing in left field. Was that ridiculous? No, it wasn't ridiculous from Mike Matheny's perspective, because think about this. Just 2 weeks ago, you had the general manager of the team instructing not to use Matt Adams in left field, and he is the only other option you have on your team that's played in the outfield. And so I'm okay with not using Matt Adams in left field tonight, because he probably slips and hurts himself because it's wet, and he's not very experienced out there. The idea that Diaz was much better of an option, I don't know that I could argue that very eloquently, but he's probably a little more athletic than Matt Adams and has a little better footing, and I don't know anything about his experience. But yeah, the risk was high. I agree with Alex for Diaz to be in left field. But again, what else was Mike Matheny supposed to do? John Mozeliak has said that he didn't want to have a Tommy Pham riding the bench on this roster because he wouldn't get any playing time. That I agree with that assessment, but at the same time, when you have 13 pitchers and you have a guy like Jonathan Broxton and Sikolovich, guys that really Mike Matheny has no reason to trust and has shown that he doesn't quite trust those guys as much as some others. These guys are out there in the bullpen really just taking up space, and you don't have enough outfielders tonight. That's rough, absolutely. If you had a true position player in MLB, you should be able to play outfield better than Adams. I don't know that I agree with that. Somebody asked if Greg Garcia could play outfield. That's something the Cardinals really have not explored, and I kind of wonder why not. That was something in spring training I wondered about when looking at this roster and saying, hey, if the Cardinals are not going to get any other outfielder from outside the organization, after the Brenden Schaeffer thing didn't work out, could a guy like Greg Garcia, who is obviously worthy of a roster spot, could he learn to play outfield to expand his flexibility? I don't know. I don't think they ever tried it, and it kind of surprised me that they didn't put him out there over Diaz tonight, but there could be a reason for that I'm not aware of. So I'm not gonna bash that move on Mike Matheny. I'm going to say I would point the direction of, with the roster he had tonight, that's kind of the position he was put into. And it's a rough one, especially when he doesn't trust the pitchers that have been given to him in the bullpen for obvious reasons. So I don't mind the move. It's not ideal, but that's kind of the situation you get into when you lose two of your starting outfielders in one game and you only have 4 to go into the game. It's a rough situation. More questions. Do we have anything else? I appreciate you guys joining in as always. Dex getting an MRI now, and Piscotty is not traveling to Atlanta tomorrow. That kind of fits in with what I would have expected. So that'll be Piscotty on the DL. Almost certainly Tommy Pham will get the call up above Harrison Bader if that's not already been announced, because he was removed from his game tonight in Memphis after the Piscotty injury. So I expect definitely Pham will be in Atlanta tomorrow. And no update on Robert. We still don't know anything. He can't sign yet anyway, so probably going to be quiet on that for a week or two until he's able to sign and things can start moving on that front. Carpenter start at leadoff tomorrow. I sure as hell hope not, because I don't think that's the way to I don't think that's the way to approach the changes that are going to obviously have to happen. I think if Carpenter moves to leadoff, you are then even more exposed in the middle of your lineup. And Carpenter's a good leadoff hitter, but I think now's the time to give Colton Wong that shot. You can talk about that it's maybe a little bit too much of an expectation to place upon his shoulders at this point, especially after 5 or 6 days ago we were talking about how he blew a game for the Cardinals. But since that day, and really in the couple of weeks preceding that day, he's been excellent. And if there's ever a time to test out if Colton Wong is for real, if this is the new Colton Wong like everybody has been proclaiming for the last couple of days, put him out there at leadoff. I'm interested to see what would happen if they did. Or you could do something a little bit different. I'm okay with Diaz being leadoff to try to jumpstart him. Piscotty, I'm okay with something, or pardon me, Piscotty obviously is out. Something weird. I'm okay with that. Greg Garcia maybe is your leadoff guy. But I don't think Carpenter's the answer there. No. For me, it wouldn't be the case. Anyway, Adams has moved. No market. You just answered your question, I think. There's really not a market for him. There wasn't a market for him in the offseason, and I think that's why he's still a Cardinal. Does he get sent down? Probably not. It's just my gut feeling. Why does Diaz have zero plate discipline? I have no idea. I think he probably pressed a little bit early in the season when he was struggling, and that kind of has turned into what we've seen now with Diaz just swinging at balls, swinging at bad pitches. He's taken 2 walks all year. I think that's a problem, and I think maybe I liked moving him around in the lineup today. I like Piscotty in the 2-hole. Obviously, that's not going to remain the case, though. Is Pham coming up? Yes, I'm sure he will be. Pham could lead off too. That would be kind of a weird deal. But again, I'm honestly fine with whatever Mike Matheny does, except I'd prefer that he doesn't put Carpenter back at leadoff because I think you should leave him where he is. Said he could possibly return Saturday in regards to Piscotty. That would be a surprise to me. So if nobody goes on the disabled list, yeah, I don't really know what would happen for tomorrow. You'd have to have, I would imagine you'd still have to call Pham up. Do they decide that now's the time with a short bench that they dump that 13th pitcher? I wouldn't be opposed to that because A, you're not using that guy anyway, and B, if you are, it's probably not a good game situation because he's not somebody you trust. So whether that's sending down Sokolovich or whether that's dumping Broxton, which I don't think they're going to do, it's probably sending down Sokolovich. Whether it's one of the two, I think that now might be the time to get rid of that 13th pitcher. And it could be Tuivailala. He was good tonight, somebody mentioned, but if they want to go that route, they could get back to a full-strength bench with one less pitcher out there. Any more questions that we have? I know I've missed a couple of them, and I apologize for that. Over or under 81 wins was a question I've gotten a couple of times. I'd say over. I still think that this is probably, I think I said before the year, 87-win team. And right now, I don't know if I'd go quite that high. Maybe I'd say 84, 85, which, by the way, could still be enough for a wild card, so don't necessarily count him out yet. Pham does have options. That's why he's in AAA right now. He'll come up, and they can send him back down just fine, and there would be no issue with that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this would be his last year of having that option to be able to be sent back to Memphis. Anything else that we have this evening? I know it was a rough series. The Cardinals lose a couple of close games. I really feel like this was a series that was eventually obviously shortened to 3 games, but a series that they could have swept. I mean, you look at how close Game 1 and Game 3 of the series was. Cardinals could be in a whole different situation right now. Instead of below 500, they could be above, and they could be right on the heels of the Cubs. I think it's a little bit too early to give you daily Cubs updates. I know that's kind of happening in the media and on Twitter a lot right now. A little too early in the season for that, but again, I understand the reason for it because that's kind of the situation. Okay, Piscotty won't travel to upcoming series, and that would not surprise me if that's the case. I haven't seen that alert because I'm talking to you guys here, but if that's the case, not at all surprising. Do we have any more questions? We can wrap things up here. I know it's a little bit later than I normally do these, but when a 7 o'clock game ends after, around 10 o'clock, I'd like to be able to come on. And if you guys enjoy this post-game kind of thing, I would love to do more of them, and so just let me know. Anytime you can send me feedback and respond and things of that nature, it helps me to understand what you guys want to see. Does this series jumpstart Carlos look like the one we know and love? It was against Milwaukee, and he's pitched well against Milwaukee in the past, so I want to see another one from Carlos before I am convinced that he's fully back into that ace form that we saw on opening night. But yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I've said all along that he's going to be fine. But is fine for Carlos Martinez going to be, what he was last year, a little bit below what he was last year, or is he going to be, the complete phenomenal pitcher that we think he can be? Okay, Stoll reported the opposite about Piscotty, said it's spasms, so who really knows? The cold weather tonight definitely could have played into that, and I would imagine that it did. And that would be maybe the one saving grace, that if it was just kind of a spasm issue that kind of flared up on Piscotty and not like a full-grade tear of the hamstring, then there could be some hope that he returns without much of a delay. But to me, the fact that they pulled Pham from his game in Memphis, or with Memphis, in Omaha, says a little bit about the concern they had for the situation, but that could have just been fully precautionary. Those games in Memphis don't matter. If they win or lose, it honestly shouldn't matter to the Cardinals long term, so they gave that directive to pull him, and I think that makes sense. Does Cecil just go in for lefty batters? I'd like to see him go in for a couple of innings. I don't know if he could pitch 2 innings, and this was a concern, not a concern, but something that I did recognize before the season. When they signed him, I looked at his game logs each season, and it was like 50-something, 60-something outings and only 38 or so innings. So it seems like over the course of his career, he's not been used as a guy that can go 1-2 innings. He's been kind of a fraction of an inning kind of guy in a lot of his outings. I think I'd like to see him be that guy too, but I don't know, especially with the bad start he had to the season, what the process is for moving him into that kind of role. We'll have to wait and see. But the more times he goes out there and can be scoreless, the more possibilities he opens himself up to. And the Cardinals paid a lot of money to use him, so hopefully he can be that tool for them that can help them in the latter innings toward winning games. Anything else? Do we have anything else tonight? Any topics we have not touched on from this game? If Fam's called up with Grit starting center or Fam, I'd start Fam there personally because I like the idea of being able to leave Grichuk in that left field spot. It's probably not the end of the world either way, but personally I'd start Fam in center field. What would Mike do? I couldn't tell you. We'll have to wait and see what happens if that situation comes to pass. If we've got any other questions, I'll be glad to take them. If not, we can wrap this thing up. And again, leave me feedback on Twitter. Always love when you guys engage on Twitter. And again, I'd love to finish this out. If you guys have a Facebook account, it's real easy. Go to Facebook, facebook.com/bschaeffer12, same as my Twitter handle, and give that page a like because I'm going to be integrating more fun content related to the Cardinals and other things that I do on there as the season goes along. And again, the IntrepidSTL.com, you can find that in my Twitter bio. Zach Gifford's been kicking butt with his content on that website, doing a lot of analytics type stuff if that's of your interest. And I've been going the more podcast route when I do these Periscopes, do these podcasts. That's kind of the way that I'm approaching things. And I'll write periodically beyond what I have to do for KMOV. But we're going to be expanding some things on that website here pretty soon. So I appreciate if you guys would subscribe at the bottom of the page. After that rant, I appreciate those of you who stuck through it. Any other questions? I promise I'll get to them real quick if you've got them. Feels like Fam will get hot after getting pulled up. Seems to be a trend. He absolutely could. He's been really good in Memphis, but we've also seen him be good in Memphis and then come up and not do anything here. So who really knows? The next starter after Wainwright right now, or just say if anybody got hurt, what would happen to the Cardinals rotation? Who would they use? That's tough. Someone from Memphis probably. Probably Luke Weaver. If he could get one more outing in, it would probably and it went fine. I would say Luke Weaver would be the guy they would use. But say somebody, the starter for tomorrow, gets hurt, or within this weekend series, because Weaver just pitched. So say somebody gets hurt like really soon. Would it be him? Probably, because I don't think they have any other options, but I don't know that it would be ideal for the Cardinals to do that. It would probably be a situation where, in an emergency situation, they would have to bring up whoever was scheduled for that day and go a literal emergency start. Too early for Austin Gomber, probably. And he struggled to begin the season, so he's gotten maybe a little bit better since then. But yeah, I think it's too early for him, and honestly, too early for anybody in that Springfield rotation. I would pick somebody out from Memphis just as a spot start if he needed it. Longer term, who really knows what they'd have to do. But I appreciate you guys joining here. I'm going to probably wrap things up now, answer this last question before we go, and we'll hit this thing up over the weekend as well if we can. Does Grich need to improve on becoming a more consistent force at the plate? What I'd like to see from Grichuk is simply not chasing those sliders, not chasing those bad breaky balls outside the strike zone. And I think that's his route to becoming more consistent. Now, do you lose a little bit? Do you sacrifice a little bit of the raw power if he has to be more selective in that way? Maybe. But I think that overall it's worthwhile to Grichuk's career to take a few more walks, which he has done, to his credit, a little bit more this year than in the past. I know he started with that trend to begin the season, but yeah, I think he can be pretty much what he's been, maybe with a little bit of a higher batting average, a little bit more room to improve for Randal Grichuk. But are we past the point where Randal Grichuk we think he could be a superstar and kind of elevate his game to that next level? I think we probably are, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Can he be a number 5 hitter at his peak on a really good contending lineup? I think that's still out there for him to be a 30 home run guy and to be, kind of that boom or bust, but with his athleticism and, the ability to run the bases, get some extra base hits, I think he can definitely be a core player for the Cardinals if he can just clean up those bad at bats where he swings at pitches way outside the strike zone. Pitch selection could go a long way for Randal Grichuk into being a really, really valuable player for the Cardinals. All right, that's all I got for tonight. I appreciate you guys joining me and asking questions. If you have any questions that I didn't answer here or anything else you're wondering throughout the week, before my next Periscope, whatever, I'd appreciate it if you would just send it to me in a tweet. I'll always like to engage with everybody when that happens. And so just let me know what you got. And also, you can subscribe to the podcast on the IntrepidSTL.com. You can do that on iTunes or SoundCloud. It's just called the Intrepid STL Podcast. So I appreciate you all, and we'll talk next time, all right? Peace out.